Approximately 5 children die every day because of child abuse, according to DoSomething.org. I'm going to talk to you today about a news article of a 3-year-old boy who was hung by his feet and left to die, along with some other cases of child abuse. I'm going to explain the difference between discipline and abuse, along with the effects that abuse can have. There is a fine line between child abuse and discipline, and abuse is wrong no matter why or what. According to Fox21News.com, a Pennsylvania couple went car shopping, bought pizza, and took a nap as the woman's unresponsive 3-year-old lay dying after weeks of escalating torture. This is 3-year-old Scott, who was hung by his feet and left to die. He was tortured for weeks before being hung upside down and left to die. This is one of the many cases that happens every day in America. There are a few other cases of child abuse, according to TrueCrimeReport.com. For example, this woman shook her child, in which later it killed the child, the infant. This man that you see in the picture, his name is Angel, and he used a maintenance gig of becoming a repairman inside schools to do, as they say, gross stuff to kids. And then there was, lastly, a lady who admits to abusing children who would not speak with words. They used grunts. These are all different types of abuse. Infant abuse, sexual abuse, and just plain child abuse. There are many different types of child abuse, according to ASCA.org. The different types of abuse are emotional abuse, neglect, physical abuse, family violence, sexual abuse, and organized sexual abuse. Emotional abuse is whenever you emotionally attack a child. For example, calling them stupid or an idiot, or telling them they will never amount to anything in their education, in which they will eventually give up on their education. They will eventually start to think they are stupid, they are idiots. Neglect is when you leave your child in order to make them live on their own pretty much at a very young age, to find food for themselves. Physical abuse is when you physically harm your child more than a discipline. Whether it be constant beating or throwing things or whatever it is, you physically leave markings on them. Family violence is when you have family members in an abusive relationship in which it then goes down to the child. Sexual abuse is pretty self-explanatory, and organized sex abuse is also explanatory within itself, except that organized, meaning they planned it out. They planned and said, I will do this to this child at this time. They planned it out. Now there is a difference between discipline and abuse. You can discipline a child physically. You can spank them on the rear end or slap their hand to explain to them that that's not what they're supposed to do. You can set them in timeout and you can ground them from the TV, the phone, their favorite toy. However, there is a difference between that and abuse. Abusing a child is constantly beating them, leaving bruises or marks on them, neglecting them, or throwing things at the child or throwing the child itself. There are many effects, long and short term. According to childwelfare.gov, effects on children can be intellectual, physical, social, psychological, and this causes a devastating development for the child. Intellectual effects are a lot like the social effects. It causes them to want to be by themselves. They can't interact with other people. It makes them think that they're different. They can't fit in with the rest of society. The physical effects is when you physically harm them to the point where Maybe their face is all messed up, broken nose, broken jaw. Or it could even be internal, such as breaking their ribs and causing for a lung puncture to happen. Psychological effects could be passed through generations. Well, I beat my kid because my mom beat me. My children will beat their children because that's what they're taught to do. That's what they learn is right. Now that I have talked to you about child abuse, along with the many cases from the sexual offenders to shaking a baby and beating children that grunt to the 3-year-old little boy named Scott who was hung by his feet, I've also explained to you the difference between abuse and discipline, along with the effects that it can have on children. You can walk out of here today, let everything I said go in one ear and out the other. But let me tell you this. Child abuse can be stopped, and it needs to be stopped, and it starts with me and you. It starts with taking a stand against it. It starts with calling in something you see. It starts with so many different things that we can do. It starts with us, and we need to stop child abuse.